or welcome back to my channel Learn with Virali. I'm Virali, your guide on this PMP adventure. If you are new to my channel, I'm Virali, a certified PMP professional helping people to pass their PMP exams on the very first try. So if you are not subscribed to my channel yet, please make sure to subscribe as it helps me to create more such kind of videos and offer help to the community. In today's video, we are diving into one of the most trickiest part of the PMP exam, which is situational questions. So these are those long form of paragraph questions having those tricky scenarios, and whenever you read all the options attached to one of those questions, you feel that all of them are correct, but actually only one of them is correct according to PMI. So let's take this strategic level of tips and tricks to the next level, helping you to nail your PMP exam. So let's get started. So let's start with what situational questions actually are. So these are the ones that actually give you a paragraph of information describing a real world project challenge and then ask you something like what should the project manager do next? Or what should the project manager take as an action which would be identified as the best course of action? So now here is the catch. It's not about what you would do at your job practically. It is actually about what PMI expects you to answer based on the PMBOK principles or the Agile Practitioner Guide. So that is why so many people get trapped up here, and you might look at the options and think, well, this is what I would do in the real life if I would be encountering a similar situation. But that might not be the answer that PMI considers as the right answer. So make sure whenever you are presented within similar kind of a question or a challenge in the PMP exam, you answer it based on the PMBOK principles or the Agile Practitioner Guide. So here is the method that I use, and it has helped hundreds of students in my PMP sessions. So I have a 4-step strategy in order to answer these kind of situational questions. Step number 1 is to eliminate emotions. So I know sometimes you read the question and instantly react with what you should do at work whenever you encounter a similar situation. But this is where many candidates get tripped up. So the PMP exam isn't asking for your personal instincts. It is actually testing how well you understand PMI's approach. So pause, breathe, and ask yourself, what would PMI recommend in this scenario? Not what your boss or maybe your teammates or maybe your previous company would do whenever they would encounter a similar situation or a challenge. So instead, answer the question which is aligned with the PMBOK principle and the Agile Practitioner Guide as a part of the first step. Moving on to the second step, which is to read the last sentence first. The next step is simple but very powerful if you put it in a right way. When you read the last sentence first, you would encounter many situational questions are long, and you can easily lose focus midway while reading the question, and you actually waste a lot of time while going through a lot of similar kind of situational scenarios. So let's flip the order. Start with the question itself, usually something like what should the project manager do next? And then go back and read the scenario with that goal in mind. So this helps you to stay focused, avoid distractions, and process the right information. So always make sure to read the last sentence first, which is our second step according to this 4-step strategy. Step number 3 is to identify keywords. Now, the next part or the next step is to train your brain to spot the keywords which PMI loves to use in the set of questions that it presents. So those are like maybe what is the best action, which simply means that what is the most aligned action according to the PMI's principles. Next you have is most likely, which is asking for a typical expected answer according to the PMI's response. Or you may also encounter like what should a project manager do first? So which is all about the correct sequence that you should start solving these kind of problems. These are actually the clues that tell you how to evaluate the options. So once you recognize these kind of clues very faster while you are practicing or getting ready for your actual exam, you will make sure that you answer questions which eliminates the wrong answers faster, and you feel more confident about your choice, that whatever answer you have selected is probably the best possible or the right choice. And the last one that we have is to apply the PMI lens. Now finally, always answer questions with the PMI lens. Now what does that mean? This means choosing the option that is typically the most ethical option or involves collaboration, whether it is with the team or with the stakeholders, or in order for you to come together as a team and solve the problem, having that collaborative approach in mind, taking proactive actions. So these are the keywords that you may encounter in the options presented to you for any given scenario. So look for the answers that involve, let's say, maybe stakeholder engagement or risk mitigation or team empowerment or continuous improvement. If this option involves like blaming someone, escalating too soon, or taking action without even communicating it, definitely those are the wrong option choices. So when in doubt, ask yourself, what would the ideal project manager do in this case? Accordingly, answer the questions having your PMI hat always on. So let's take an example over here to put our strategy into action and see how fast we can reach to the right answer. So the question is, you are managing an agile project and one of your key stakeholders is unhappy with the recent demo. So what should you do as a part of the first action? The options are escalate it to the sponsor. Option B says replace the developer. Option C is review the stakeholders' feedback and collaborate on a solution. And option D is to pause the sprint. Now, once you read the question, let's start applying that four-step strategy that we had discussed a while ago. So as a part of the first step, which is to eliminate emotions, it is very easy to get reactive over here. Maybe like you have encountered a similar tough stakeholders before, or might have had a difficult demo sessions where you had to take certain actions in the past. But let's try to stay calm and answer question based on the PMI's response, or maybe the ideal response that PMI gives in this case. Moving on to the second step, which is to read the last sentence first. The last sentence says, what should you do first? So that's where we are now ready to identify the correct order of actions that we should apply for reaching towards the right solution. Moving on to the third step, which was to identify the keyword. Our keyword here is first. So it's about what action to take immediately, not eventually. And the step number 4 was to apply the PMI lens. Now here, when I review the options, I find something like collaborate with the team on a solution, or understand the feedback, or maybe continuous improvement, which is making me understand that I'm not supposed to escalate or I'm not supposed to blame others. So let's look at the choices now. Option A says escalate to the sponsor. That's not the right option choice because that is too soon without you actually analyzing the feedback. So that's not the right option choice. Option B says react or maybe replace the developer, which is way too extreme and not collaborating, or not, that is not something that the ideal PMI's project manager would do. So always remember that you are supposed to collaborate, analyze the feedback as the first step. Option number D says pause the sprint, which is definitely going to disrupt the team's flow, and it's not gonna allow you to reach towards the root cause of this issue, helping you to solve this problem. So that leaves us only with one option choice, which is option number C, saying review the stakeholders' feedback and collaborate on the solution. And that's exactly what PMI wants to see in the agile environment. See how that works. Just follow the process and there you go. You reach towards the right answer pretty much faster, and you understand why this is the right answer according to PMI. So option C over here is the right option choice. Read through some of the final tips that I have in this case for solving situational questions. First one I have is always eliminate two answers first. Please make sure to understand this the right way. Whichever thing applies or whichever thing is asking you to take actions immediately, they are not the right option choices without you going back and analyzing things up first before taking an action. Option 2 says avoid answers that escalate or isolate too quickly. That's what I just mentioned, saying that never take an action without analyzing the things that had happened before or analyzing the response or the thing that has occurred and how it would impact the other situations. So never do that. And option number 3 or tip number 3 is if it involves the team or the stakeholder engagement, it's probably the good sign or the answer that you should go ahead with selecting it for that particular question, as that would be the ideal answer given by a PMI's project manager. Always remember, don't answer it at your having your company's head on yourself. That is typically what you would practically do when presented with a similar situation. But instead, answer it according to the PMI's head or putting that PMI's head on yourself, acting as an ideal project manager who would take the theories or the theoretical aspect first and then answer the question, not the practical one.